First and foremost, let's jump right into the story that you can see in the description below. We link to an ir.net story. This is
it's an exclusive story that we actually got from it was a family member of a whistleblower who actually went to a media outlet in the United Kingdom, but this outlet could not publish it. Would you like to?
Well, basically, the individual I spoke to was the brother-in-law of an individual who claims to have worked for SCL Group. SCL Group is basically the parent company of Cambridge Analytica. Now, SCL Group had a subsidiary. They spawned off this other company called SCL Elections. SCL Elections was then funded by the Mercer family for $15 million. The Mercer family's, of course, one of Trump's biggest donors. Now, once they were funded with $15 million, they renamed themselves Cambridge Analytica. And from there, they became a private company. SCL Group, on the other hand, was more of a military contracting company. Now, this individual worked for SCL Group between the years of 2005 and 2013. The individual says that the technology that they developed, the psychometric data entry and analysis that they developed, which they used to target the mental vulnerabilities within Iraqi citizens, and sort of convince them that America was the good guys.
And they wanted to influence the election in Iraq as well.
They used this technology to influence elections. They used it to make America more favorable in Iraq. They used it to breed fear of Iran in Iraq. And basically, this individual says that this technology was adopted by Cambridge Analytica because they're the subsidiary of SCL Group, and then used against the United States and its citizens in order to influence the election results of 2016. Now, this is a bombshell story, and if this is actually true and this whistleblower isn't blowing smoke, if this is the case, basically they're saying that the U.S. and the U.K. militaries use this technology in Iraq, but it's now seeped into the private sector, and now Cambridge Analytica is using it against us.
So basically a technology that U.S. government and the government in the United Kingdom were using to their benefit in order to help bring peace in Iraq ended up backfiring, and Cambridge Analytica now has this technology and has used it against us and the United Kingdom in our elections and in voting processes such as the Brexit vote.
Now the whistleblower is apparently speaking to one major news organization in the UK. I'm not going to mention any names because I wasn't told I was allowed to do so. But this individual is worried that they aren't going to publish a story because, unlike the United States, they don't have such lenient free press laws. And the Ministry of Defense, who is kind of implicated in all of this, the Ministry of Defense is the United Kingdom's basically DOD, Department of Defense. And they are likely going to try and squash this story. So he wanted us to get the story out there for him and hope to push this one particular British newspaper into publishing the story.
Well, that's the thing. If we publish the story like we have, it kind of removes some of the hurdles for these other larger media outlets to come forward and publish a story as well. And it's our belief that these other media outlets have a lot more information to share. So it's a very interesting story, and it seems like Cambridge Analytica was very connected with the Trump campaign. You could say they were one of the same, since Steve Bannon was on the board of directors at Cambridge Analytica, and he was also on Trump's campaign team.
Yeah, I urge you all to read the story. Just look below in the description. It's the ir.net link. It's an interesting story. Somebody said Louise Mensch was on this super early. I'm interested to see what she actually had to say. And it's going to be interesting to see if if other people start publishing what this whistleblower is saying. And we'll just leave it at that. You can read the story, and I think maybe we should just move on to the next topic.
Yeah, so I guess that would be Guccifer 2.0, which many of you know was a hacker, a mysterious hacker who was in contact with Trump campaign aide Roger Stone. And basically they're the hackers of the DNC, and it was just discovered that Guccifer 2.0 is actually a Russian intel agent. And this was discovered by the U.S. because Guccifer 2.0 actually made some mistakes, and the U.S. discovered this. But this is a that has key importance, because if Roger Stone was communicating with Guccifer 2.0 knowing that was a Russian agent, and then Trump communicated with Roger Stone knowing it was a Russian agent, there's your conspiracy right there.
Yeah, let's talk about how they found this out. The Daily Beast published an article, but basically what happened was this hacker, it was a single person, they hacked into the DNC emails, but when the U.S. intel agencies were tracking this individual, he always used a VPN, which is a virtual private network, and which hides your IP address, hides your location. But one time, he forgot to turn his VPN on, and this allowed the agencies to track him to a French IP address, and through that French IP address, figure out that it was actually coming from an IP address in the GRU intel agency in Moscow.
Well, what I find interesting is that we kind of assumed that Guccifer 2.0 was a Russian agent or somebody in Russia, and the intel community has believed this as well. You would think that they would have already told Trump that they believe it's Russian intel.
I'm sure he was aware of it.
So why? And yet he still doesn't come out against them. He's still saying, "Oh, maybe it was Russia, or maybe it was Iran, or maybe it was China, or maybe it was a fat guy sitting in his mom's basement." So Trump's kind of covering for Guccifer 2.0 and covering for Russia.
Yeah, and the fact that Roger Stone was talking to this individual, as well as talking to Julian Assange, who hacked emails were passed on to, doesn't look good for the Trump campaign. Roger Stone was an advisor to the campaign. Now, we also got word that Mueller has been investigating Roger Stone for quite some time. We knew that, talking to Sam Nunberg the other week. He also said that Roger Stone seems to be a central figure in all this. So Mueller knows all this, and he's probably multiple steps ahead of where the media is right now. He clearly knows that Guccifer 2.0 was a Russian agent.
Yeah, and then, Guccifer 2.0 was working for Russia to hack the emails, but then Cambridge Analytica was sort of working with the Russians as well. So, everything's kind of starting to come together now, I think. And, there's a lot of NDAs. You hear all this stuff about Trump having NDAs for Stormy Daniels and for other women he slept with. But there's also NDAs involved in these companies like Cambridge University or Cambridge Analytica. Yeah. I had a chance to speak with a few ex-employees and current employees of Cambridge Analytica, and they say that Cambridge Analytica coerces everyone into signing NDAs.
Yeah, and it's clearly that it's clear that these employees are kind of hushed up. They don't want them talking for probably good reason. But I guess we can move to the next story.
Well, I want to mention a few things. We've usually been doing these live streams on Periscope since we have such a large Twitter following, and so our viewership's down right now over YouTube. But I think we're going to slowly move into just doing these on YouTube Live, just because we like the features they have here better. But we're still on Twitter, and you can still tweet your questions and comments to us using the hashtag Krassenstein Live. You can also leave your comments on the side on the chat bar here, and we'll try to get to them as well. If you can't see the chat bar, it's probably because you're watching it on Twitter, but you can click on the YouTube video, and it'll take you to the YouTube interface. So we'll move on to the next topic here, and that would be Stormy Daniels.
Yeah,
big event this weekend on Sunday.
At 7 p.m. Eastern time, I believe.
60 minutes. Stormy Daniels and her attorney. I don't know if her attorney's going to be there, but Stormy Daniels is going to be there for an exclusive interview, which Trump and his legal team actually tried to get taken off the air. He didn't want the interview to air, so it was actually supposed to air a few weekends ago, but it's been moved up to this coming Sunday. And what do you think? What kind of revelations do you think are going to come out?
If any of you caught the attorney's tweet this morning, he basically says that he basically alludes to something huge. I'll just read you what he said. He said, "If a picture is worth 1,000 words, how many words is this worth?" And he posted a picture of a DVD. So to me, he's suggesting that they have videotape of something. It might be something we don't want to particularly watch, but it seems like it might be evidence. And then he used the hashtags. He used 2 hashtags. Please deny it and basta.
Well, that's interesting. So he's basically egging Trump on to have. He's begging Trump to deny that he actually had sexual intercourse with Stormy Daniels, and because if he does so, he's claiming, at least by this tweet and the photo of his CD or DVD, that he has video footage or image footage or audio recordings of Trump and Stormy Daniels. So it should be interesting to see if Trump even mentions this. You notice he's not tweeting about it like he tweets about everything else, perhaps because he just doesn't even want Fox News to cover it. He just doesn't want it to be covered, and he knows if he tweets, it's going to be covered.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting that he's remaining silent about this. I agree. I think it's going to be a bombshell. Honestly, I think it's going to be a bombshell. I think that Daniel's attorney is a genius and is getting Trump to fall for every little thing, I guess.
Well, I mean, for all we know, he could be bluffing, and that DVD is just some cartoon movie that he was watching with his kids. We don't know. We don't know what's on that DVD, and he could be bluffing just to show Trump that he could have a video, and if Trump denies it, it could come back and haunt him. But I don't even know. Trump could lie about it and say it never happened, and his base wouldn't even care if the video came out.
Yeah, I mean, it might not make a whole lot of difference in the long run, but I have a feeling it's going to be quite a story. The media is going to enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be exciting with a lot of big events this weekend. Tomorrow is a March for Our Lives in Washington, D.C. and all around the United States. Many of you might be participating in that. And that's going to be something that Trump doesn't really want to get out. He doesn't want people to see it.
He's heading to Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, he's going to Mar-a-Lago, getting out of Washington, D.C., where the huge march is taking place. And then on Sundays, it's Stormy Daniels interview. And then on Monday, we start the week again.
Yeah. This might be a very interesting week to start, especially if this interview lives up to its hype.
Yeah, it could be getting overhyped. Maybe it's not going to live up to the hype, but we don't know. And I guess the only way to tell is to watch the interview this weekend. Yeah. I know I'll be watching it.
Speaking about the March for Our Lives protest this weekend on Saturday, they're expecting close to 500,000 people, maybe even more in Washington, D.C. And then there's little events in pretty much every major city in the United States.
I imagine there's going to be millions.
There's events around the world, actually, not just in the United States. But the NRA yesterday, a spokesman for NRA came out and said, "March for Our Lives is backed by radicals with a history of violent threats, language, and actions." Yeah, Emma Gonzalez is really a violent radical.
Can you name one of the violent radicals that is backing March for Our Lives?
It's like these people are so out of touch with reality, it's disgusting.
It really is.
I mean, this is one of the most peaceful protests, I think, designed.
Yeah. I mean, it's against violence. It's against
the whole purpose of the protest is to protest violence, and they're claiming, they're violent.
And there's the Second Amendment people who say, it's against the Second Amendment, but it's not. Nobody's trying to take anybody's guns away. We're just trying to set stricter regulations so incidents like what happened in Parkland can't happen again, or to make it more difficult for those events to happen again. Some of the things are raising the age to purchase any gun from 18 to 21. I mean, nobody can buy a handgun unless you're 21. Why not make the same rules apply to assault weapons that can shoot 60 people in a matter of minutes?
Yeah.
It's like some of this stuff it's common sense gun laws. We're not trying to take guns away. Nobody's trying to take guns away. Second Amendment's there. It's going to be there to stay, at least for the next 100 years, I imagine. So, now
that we're talking about guns, I want to bring up one thing, and that is the spending bill, the $1.3 trillion spending bill that people didn't think Trump was going to sign. They thought he might veto it. It actually has some new gun legislation in it, and it's some good stuff.
You'd have to wonder if Trump even read the bill, which I
well, it was over 2,000 pages. Clearly, he probably read maybe 2 of the pages, probably 2 pages. Anyway, the gun. There's a section about guns on page 1971 of the bill, and it basically provides funding for schools to stop violence, grants to schools to increase security and learn how to identify potential threats. It also clarifies that federal dollars can now be used to research gun violence. Now that was
a big thing.
Now that was a huge thing that many Democrats were against, is the fact that we can't even research it. Now I don't know if this throws out the ban on the CDC researching it. I don't think it does, but it allows federal funds to now be able to research gun violence, which is definitely a good thing. You can't complain about that.
Yeah, I have to agree. And you know, there's a lot of stuff in this bill that some Democrats are claiming is a win for Democrats. Have you noticed that as well? For example, it keeps Obamacare. It doesn't get rid of Obamacare anyway. It implements more. It helps in the progress to get universal background checks on guns. That's something that's big and something that the Democrats have been pushing hard. It also funds Planned Parenthood. That's something that the Democrats wanted really bad, and the Republicans have kind of been against, at least most Republicans. So, and the wall. Trump's wall. You know how he wanted $25 billion to build his concrete wall across the Mexican border? This bill gives him $1.6 billion to build a fence. It can't even be concrete.
Yeah.
So, I see a lot of... I see this as a loss for Trump. Wouldn't you have to say the same? And
yeah, it's definitely a loss. But
at the same time, taxpayers are paying $1.6 billion to build this fence. I thought Trump said Mexico was going to pay for it.
Yeah, what happened there? Big surprise, right? But I mean, in my mind, there's no need for a wall. There's other technologies that can be used to pretty much do the same exact thing. In fact, immigration from Mexico is down drastically over the last 12 years. For instance, in 2015, only 170,000 Mexicans came over the border illegally. In 2005, 1.7 million. So it's down 90%.
Well, what I find interesting is Trump keeps using the wall as a deterrent for illegal drugs. You know, like the opioid crisis. He's basically using the opioid crisis to give him an excuse to promote his wall. But the wall's not going to stop the drug problem. Some interesting stats here I have for you. 95% of the drugs that come into America don't come over physical land borders. They come through boats. They drive boats from Mexico. They drive boats from South America up to the West Coast, sometimes the East Coast, and deliver drugs that way. And you know, it's not that hard to do.
Well, and fentanyl is like the new drug that's cheap, inexpensive, and being used quite a lot by Americans, especially in areas in the Northeast. And that is because they're coming from Canada. China actually ships the drugs to Canada, and they come in through Canada. Should we build a wall on the northern border now?
Yeah, the whole idea of building a wall to prevent drugs, it's not going to work. But what about all the pharmaceuticals?
Yeah.
The legal pharmaceuticals that people get prescriptions for. Those are coming from America. We're buying them. You can go to your local Walgreens or CVS and get your prescription filled and then sell it to the guy on the corner for 5 times what you pay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the main issue here that we're having. People are selling legal pills. People are creating drugs in America. People are importing drugs that come through the Canadian border, coming through boats from South America. It's not the Mexican border. And besides, you can throw a bag of drugs over a wall, 50-foot wall, you can throw it over. You can catapult it over.
Yeah.
You know?
Like right now, they're saying the wall is going to be 30 feet or so. I mean, 30 feet's nothing. Anybody with a slightly strong arm can throw it over the wall. Probably your son could throw it over a 30-foot wall.
There's a lot of good baseball players in Mexico. I'm sure they all have pretty good arms where they can throw over a 30-foot wall. Gravity's not that strong.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Another thing is just anti-American because it's preaching. It should be preaching inclusion, not exclusion. That's not what America's about. I mean, walls are so 20th century.
Have failed.
Early 20th
walls
century.
Have all failed everywhere. I mean, you look at the Great Wall of China. You look at there's other walls.
There's a reason walls are being torn down and not erected, except apparently in America, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. It's just one of those aggravating things that I think Trump's just trying to push because he promised it in his campaign. But there's so many other things. He also promised Mexico's going to pay for the wall, and that's not going to happen.
Anders Rabin Hansen just said 20 feet, actually. Okay, so maybe it's 20 feet. That's even better. I mean, I have a ceiling in my house that's 20 feet, so...
Olympic high jumpers can almost jump that wall then.
Yeah.
Almost.
They'll be pole vaulting over it.
Alright, so should we move on? There's a couple other topics. Yesterday, John Bolton was named the new National Security Advisor to President Trump. H.R. McMaster's is out.
His third National Security Advisor.
Yeah, so John Bolton he's a controversial figure. He's very, 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 very pro-war. He was actually in the Bush administration when we went to war in Iraq. He's been promoting war over and over again on Fox News. His theory is attack everyone as long as they're not America.
Yeah, and it's interesting because all this Cambridge Analytica news is sprouting up in the last week. And he was actually a client of Cambridge Analytica. His super PAC. He owns a super PAC, and that super PAC was one of the was a pretty large client of Cambridge Analytica. So it all baffles my mind how everything's connected. And it's kind of nuts.
It's pretty incredible. I'm going to take a few questions on Twitter. Remember, if you want to tweet at us, you can tweet using hashtag Krassenstein Live right over Brian's right ear there. Yo Mama says, talk about DeGenova backing out.
Is that his attorney?
I did not know that DeGenova backed out.
For anybody not aware, DeGenova is the guy from Fox News. He was an attorney, and he was Trump's new attorney that he brought in. Dowd resigned shortly after that, and now he's backing out. If that's the case,
that's what this Twitter user says. I have not.
If that's the case, it's pretty big news. In the fact that why are all these attorneys running?
What I heard is that Trump actually tried hiring at least 4 attorneys who have turned him down. And who's going to turn down a job for the president, working what could be the case of the century, unless you think you're going to lose?
You think you're going to lose, or you think you're going to have to do things that might not be legal.
I'm just looking up. I want to see if he backed out here. I have not seen that. I still don't see it. So I'm not sure if that actually happened or not. Shirley on Twitter says, not sure if it's cause you're splitting between YouTube and Twitter, or it's just my crappy service, but today's podcast is not streaming smoothly. And note, Trump didn't read what he signed. No one did. I'm not sure about the streaming. I don't actually see it. I know we have some issues that we're going to try and fix. Just make sure you copy that before you can paste it somewhere, Brian. We have some issues we're going to try and fix with our streamer, but it should be fixed in future broadcasts, at least if we can. And Trump didn't read. Of course, Trump didn't read the 2,000 page. I'm sure he got probably like an index card of Cliff Notes.
Bullet points, a few bullet points, and he probably didn't even read that. I mean, he didn't even read the warning to not congratulate Putin, so how can you expect him to
did he not read it, or did he just ignore it? I think
the White House's story that he didn't read it.
Hillary Burridge says, will the Mercer family be held responsible for funding these deceptive companies? That's in reference to Cambridge Analytica and SCL Group. I don't know if they funded SCL Group.
They funded Cambridge Analytica. I mean, it's too early to tell. There's definitely some shady things going on.
Well, what can happen is it could be a mass conspiracy. It could be RICO charges, which is racketeering. And if that's the case, that Mercer could be brought into it. Of course, we don't see that. We don't have the hard evidence. We don't have emails and conversations and witness testimony, so we don't know. But I assume if they knew that Russia was hacking the election, if they knew that Russia was influencing the election, they were cooperating and conspiring with them, they can be held criminally liable.
Definitely. Yeah, and it's interesting that Robert Mercer stepped down from his hedge fund position probably about 5 or 6 months ago. Did he do that because he knows that his name's going to be poisoned, or did he do that just because he's retiring? We don't know. It was an interesting time. It was an interesting time for it to happen.
Yeah, and another question here on Twitter. This is from Sharon Jackson, hasn't Trump heard of tunnels or ladders? Exactly. You can build a tunnel under a wall. You can use a ladder.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of ways to get around a wall.
Evidently, the wall is going to go 6 feet, 6 feet deep, which is really nothing. You can if they're digging tunnels that are miles long, going 6 feet in depth is going to be nothing. Ladders, the wall could maybe be built to prevent a ladder from, depending on what they're doing, what they put at the top of it, but. It just baffles my mind that he actually thinks that
I mean, I agree that we need enhanced security on the border, but I don't think the wall is the option.
Yeah, and I think the biggest way to stop what's going on is to stop Mexicans and immigrants from coming in illegally. And I don't feel we can do much about the ones who have been here for years and years and years, that started families, that had kids. I don't think that's fair.
Well, what I always say is I think everything's relative. Once you come to America and you see the life here, it's kind of unfair to kick these people out. I think the whole thing is preventing people from getting here in the first place. But in order to do that, it's not about a wall. A lot of it is maybe issuing the number of visas you issued. There's other ways, and there's other security measures that can be taken to prevent illegals from coming to America. A wall is more of like, he just wants something physical to show. And that's not the solution to everything.
It's almost like, I promised a wall on the campaign trail. I have to get a wall, even though he realizes it might not be the smartest move. It might not be the smartest move financially. It might not be the smartest move for a variety of reasons. And he's just continuing to push for this just because he's stubborn, it seems, rather than wanting the best for the country.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And I don't think he's going to get the wall. I really don't. I don't think it's going to happen. And I know for a fact that Mexico is not going to pay for it. I'm sure Trump is trying to talk to Mexico and trying to say, we paid for it. But it's not going to happen.
Yeah, David Baer says most come here legally and overstay their visas. And that's absolutely right. Most of these immigrants are coming here legally. They might have a 4-month visa or 4-week visa. I don't know how long they give them, but they overstay it and then they remain in the country, and that's what happens.
But can you blame them? These people are coming from a country where they're going to the bathroom in buckets, and they're they can hardly put food on their table for their kids, and they come here and they see that they can actually have a life for themselves. Can you blame them for not wanting to go back, to their old lifestyle? And I'm not saying all Mexicans live that way. I'm not saying, but there's a lot more poverty in Mexico. There's a lot more crime in certain areas of Mexico, and you really can't blame these people.
I mean, if America was a mess, there are no jobs. If there's a 35% unemployment rate, we were getting paid $1 an hour at most. I think, and Mexico is more like America, there's no doubt that we'd be trying to go there to better our families.
Well, and here's the thing. What about all the jobs that these Mexican people are taking, working their butts off in jobs that Americans aren't willing to work for? And I mean, the farmers, I can't see how all these farmers are so pro-Trump when so much of their workforce is illegal Mexicans who they probably pay under the table.
Well, and it's actually, there's no hard evidence, there's no statistics that actually show that any immigrants coming from Mexico are actually taking Americans' jobs. And basically what most statistics show is that they might be taking a slim portion of high school dropouts' jobs. But other than that, it's not making a significant impact. And the numbers are, like I said earlier, have gone from 1.7 million in 2005 to 170,000 immigrants coming over the border in 2015. So it's significantly dropping, and that's more because Mexicans are having less children. There's less the younger generation shrinking, and there's more opportunity in Mexico right now. So instead of spending all this money to build a wall, why don't we try and help Mexico create a robust economy and have these people want to stay there and not want to.
Well, and that's the thing. A lot of companies have actually started
putting tariffs on them is not the way to go. It's hurting them more.
Hurting them more and making more immigrants come here illegally. It's like just a big giant cycle. And Trump he's physically and metaphorically, he's building a wall around us with all the tariffs. Speaking of tariffs, by the way, Did you see today that Trump actually suspended the implementation of the steel tariffs?
No, I didn't see that.
Until May 1st for a huge list of countries. But if you look at that list of countries, it's all the top exporters to the U.S. of steel. So basically, what that tells me is that he suggested this idea, he signed the bill.
Realized it was stupid.
Well, no, it's not that. He did it to win that special election in Pennsylvania. Because
And he lost.
Pennsylvania, there's so many steel workers in Pennsylvania. He did it to get people to vote for the Republican, Rick Saccone. And as you all know, Connor Lamb won that special election. And now Trump's kind of pulling back. He's like, oh, maybe not. Maybe I'm not going to do this. And we have to be careful because with all of the midterms coming up, I think we're going to see other moves like this by Trump to try and help the Republicans win their House elections. And we can't believe him. We can't believe what he says.
Yeah, and
he might pull stuff back.
And what's so scary is that China is already fighting back. They're going to put tariffs on imports of U.S. goods, namely pork, recycled aluminum. There's a variety of other items, and most of it's targeting Trump voters, states that voted for Trump. So maybe that's a reason why he's kind of pulling these tariffs back.
Yeah.
But you can't have a trade war. If you have a trade war, it just spirals out.
Well, you saw what happened to the stock market yesterday. The market fell 723 points today. Let me check what the market's doing today.
Yeah, it was the 5th largest point drop in American history.
The market's up 10 points today, so it's about equal today after falling 723 points yesterday.
Yeah, and that was a fifth largest point drop in Dow history. Trump now owns the first, second, and fifth, and I believe 8th largest point drops in the history of the Dow.
That's pretty incredible. Yeah, but you had to look at points. That's not percentage,
Yeah.
and since the market's higher now than it was in previous years, the point drop and point increase is a little it's not accurate because you got it's a huge drop.
Significant. David says, thank God SCOTUS, the Supreme Court, upheld the Pennsylvania Supreme Court redistricting because it was bad before. Yeah, and Republicans in Pennsylvania are now threatening this Pennsylvania Supreme Court with impeachment because they don't like the fact that they want them to redistrict.
I think this is something important to talk about. So in Pennsylvania, the GOP in Pennsylvania used gerrymandering in order to create districts that they believed would help them win more elections. So basically, they take districts and say, okay, well, let's take a little bit of this district and move it to this one, so that instead of getting 60 to 40 Republican in this district and 90 to 10 in this district, or 50-50 in this district, 90-10 in this district, we just take a few of those and move them to this district, so we win both districts. So the Democrats came out and said we want to have the courts review this and see if it's fair or not. And the court said no, it's not fair. We're going to redraw the map. So the maps were redrawn, and now it's more fair according to the courts. And the GOP saying no, it's not fair. It's going to help the Democrats, and it might help the Democrats.
It probably will help the Democrats.
Republicans aren't cheating anymore, so it might help the Democrats. But now the GOP in Pennsylvania is threatening the judges who made this ruling that they're going to have them impeached. Where's the separation of powers?
It's crazy.
Remember, we have an executive branch, the president, the legislative branch, which is Congress, and the judicial branch, which is the court. So the judicial branch ruled that this is how the district should be for future elections, and the legislative branch, backed by the executive branch, is now saying, we're going to get rid of you. We're going to throw you judges out so you side with us. That's not how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, it's sad, but I think that the Supreme Court ruling, I think that they're going to have very little options.
There's no way it's going to be overturned. There's no way the judges are going to be impeached.
If they actually impeach the judges,
that's the end of democracy if that happens.
And it's the end of the GOP, especially in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so, that's one of those things, just another back and forth between the Democrats and Republicans. We'll see what happens, but I think it's going to be ruled in favor of Democrats in the end.
Yeah.
And I think it will be in effect for these upcoming midterms, which should be huge. Big midterms. There's a few other news, bits of news. Actually, that's actually pretty much everything I had on.
Yeah, do we have any other questions? Or
you can take some questions on there.
yeah, if you guys have any questions, right in the sidebar. I'll read some of these. Hey Sanil said, "Do you think he'll fire Sessions?" I don't know. If he fires Sessions, they still have to have the Senate appoint somebody. They not appoint somebody, but he still has to go through the Senate approval process, whoever he appoints. So that's going to be difficult for him to actually fire Sessions and then find somebody who's going to fire Mueller, because the Senate will ask, are you going to fire Robert Mueller? And if they say yes, they're going to throw them out. They're not going to vote for them. So a more likely scenario would be for Trump to fire Rod Rosenstein, who's the Deputy Attorney General and currently in charge of the Mueller investigation. Mueller has to answer to Rosenstein.
Do you know who it would then go to? Rosenstein's fire?
It used to go to
Brand,
a woman named Rachel Brand, but she resigned, coincidentally. So there's a few other people in the lineup. I'm not sure the whole secession thing, but basically he's going to fire Rosenstein. Then he'd have to figure out, will this next person in line of secession fire Mueller? No, then he's going to fire that person. No, then he's going to fire the next person. That's what he'd have to do in order to fire Mueller right now. And so I don't think he's going to have a very easy time to fire Mueller. I think his position right now is trying to discredit.
Well, what I find interesting is the fact that Trump and the White House keep coming out and saying, no, we're not firing Mueller. But technically, he can't fire Mueller. He can fire Rosenstein, and the person that takes Rosenstein's position can fire Mueller. So technically, the White House and Trump wouldn't be firing Mueller. So I think it's kind of misconceiving what Trump's saying and what the White House is saying, because they still can have Mueller removed without firing him.
Yeah, but I really think that Trump kind of knows he's cornered. He probably isn't going to have a very easy time of getting Mueller removed because the path is just so difficult. Oh, yeah. So I think right now he wants to just discredit the investigation. He's probably going to push the GOP to try and set up a special counsel investigating Mueller. That's something I wouldn't be surprised.
What I think is part of me just wants them to set up a second special counsel just to shut everyone up and be like, okay, this is fair. But another part of me
who are they going to put in charge of that special counsel?
Well, another part of me is like, okay, if you set up a second special counsel, it's going to delay everything and make Mueller's time a lot more difficult. It's going to discredit him.
Yeah.
But in the end, they'll come up empty. It's like they'll come up empty on Robert Mueller. He has as much integrity as anybody in the whole country. I don't know if you guys know the story of who Robert Mueller is, but he is an ex-FBI director, but he was in Vietnam, and he was shot in the leg. And after he was shot, he continued to save the lives of other people who were getting fired at and getting shot. And then, after he recovered in the hospital, they said, okay, we're sending you back home to the United States. And he said, no, I refuse. I'm going to continue fighting in Vietnam for my country. So this isn't a man that's just going to create lies or deceive. Yeah. He's an American and he's a patriot, and he wants to do what's best for the country. He's not going to do something if he doesn't think it's right.
Well,
it's not about winning for him.
What would his reasoning for favoring the Democrats in all this be? He's a career Republican. He was appointed by a Republican who was appointed by Trump. Yeah. So it's just crazy, the conspiracy theories that are out there. It's almost nuts that people believe this stuff. And I actually have a story this morning. We were posting about Trump and DACA. Trump made that tweet about DACA, saying that it's the Democrats' fault, blah, blah, blah. And I made a post under his tweet saying, you're the one that in September canceled DACA, which is a proven fact. He canceled DACA. Now, I posted a link to CNN where Sarah Sanders was saying, today, this is September 5th, 2017, today we are ending DACA. So I posted that link, and there are literally 3 or 4 people under that link I posted saying, fake news at CNN, how you're actually posting a CNN article as proof that this happened. And it's like the CNN article had a video of Sarah Sanders saying, today we're ending DACA.
And that's somehow fake just because
It's
CNN
like
posted it.
people can't think for themselves. People just
So people rather believe Sean Hannity saying that Hillary Clinton has a pedophile ring is running a pedophile ring in the basement of a pizza parlor in New York, but they won't believe a video of Sarah Sanders saying something in live flesh. It's like
what did
are
CNN
thinking?
did CNN just make up this video, dub words into her mouth?
It's just ridiculous. Like people, like it's a whole fake news thing. Trump's always talking about fake news. It's like it's going in people's head, and people don't even believe what they see anymore. It's ridiculous. People don't believe what they see with their own eyes. They believe what Trump says and what Sean Hannity says over what they can see with their own eyes.
It's like, how do you argue with somebody? How do you have a debate with a person who throws out clear evidence that Trump ended DACA? There's proof Trump ended DACA. It's a video of Sarah Sanders saying Trump is ending DACA today. I mean, how much more evidence can you have than that?
It's so crazy. It's unbelievable. It really is. Let me see. Remember, you can tweet at us with hashtag Krassenstein Live. Also, subscribe to us. If you're watching us on Twitter, you can just click on the video and go to the YouTube link, and you can click subscribe on the underneath me right down there. And if you're watching here, you can click subscribe under there. We just started the YouTube broadcasts. We've been doing Periscope. I know previously we used to have like 1,000 people watching our Periscope videos at once, but we decided to move over to YouTube. We don't really have much of a following yet, so be sure to follow us, subscribe to our channel, and we're going to be doing these regularly. There's a hashtag comment on Twitter. Sharon Jackson says, "Do you think Stormy Daniels got impregnated by Trump?" And I really thought that was a possibility, but didn't Michael Avenatti, Daniel's attorney,
he came out and said that there was no pregnancy involved. So I'm guessing that there's no pregnancy.
Yeah, so he didn't impregnate her, but it's we don't something's going to come out in the 60 Minutes interview. I think it's going to surprise a lot of us. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be interesting.
Did you see the Karen McDougal interview last night on CNN?
I briefly saw clips of it.
So Karen McDougal is the ex-Playboy playmate who had a 10-month affair with President Trump, or Donald Trump, back, I think it was like 10 years ago. So she actually came forward and explained how that affair went. And it was so incredibly believable. There's no way this woman's making this up. There's no way at all. That it's very believable. I'm a little concerned for her about the legalities of her coming out and talking about it. I'm not sure if she might actually get in some legal trouble for actually breaking the NDA. So I don't know. I hope that doesn't happen. And she actually said that what kind of made me vomit a little bit was she said that Donald Trump was very charming. How can he be charming? Like, how can anybody see him as a charming
Maybe money is
person?
charming to her.
I don't know. She turned down money. He offered to pay her
that's
after they
true.
had sex.
Something else that she said is that Anderson Cooper asked her if he ever brought his children up, and she said, "You are." He said, "You are very beautiful, like Ivanka."
That's not the first time that Trump has actually compared his daughter Ivanka to his young women lovers. It's not the first time it's happened before, and it's making some people question. Yeah, it's a little weird, huh? Wouldn't you say that's weird?
I'd say so.
But, I guess...
Let's take a few comments over here. Somebody said, "Hey, Sunil said, you don't argue with people who have confidence in their ignorance." And that's going back to the whole CNN video thing I was talking about. And yeah. I mean, it's impossible to argue with people who can't see past their ignorance.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. There's a few more Twitter comments. Bewildered Palm says, "So the nationwide Never Again march is tomorrow. Bad news, Trump is leaving Washington today. Good news, he will be in Mar-a-Lago in Florida. Let's hope so many Floridians, like never before, pay his resort a visit." And that's a really good point. Me and Brian actually live in Florida. We're in Fort Myers, Florida.
We're about 3 hours or so, 2.5 hours from Mar-a-Lago.
We're not going to go there, but we'll be taking part in some other marches in our area. Trump is leaving Washington, but I have a feeling, I think there's going to be a lot of people in Palm Beach who are going to be protesting, and who knows how close to Mar-a-Lago they'll be, but I'm sure Trump's going to hear about it. Yeah, I'm sure he will. Sharon Jackson says, "Do you think that Twitter will purge the the resurgence of bots. I think Twitter's constantly purging the bots, but it's so easy to create a Twitter account. Have you ever tried? You literally make 100 Twitter accounts in what, like 3 hours?
Yeah.
And then you can set programs up to automatically tweet things, to respond to people. The problem, I think what Twitter's going to be doing, I know a lot of you are familiar with the little blue check mark where people can get verified, and they actually shut that down a few months ago. But what they're going to be doing is allowing everybody to verify themselves by uploading things such as driver's license, passports, utility bills, stuff like that. So everyone can verify themselves. So anybody who's not verified is going to be kind of looked at as a bot. And people are probably going to be able, my guess is people are going to be able to block anyone who's not verified. There's going to be a setting on their account where you can probably block anyone without a verified account. So I think that's going to actually help. I think it's going to help significantly in limiting the amount of influence that bots can have on Twitter. And, maybe Facebook should do something similar to that.
Yeah,
I guess we'll see.
Facebook's so much more personal. I'm kind of surprised that they don't do something similar to that. Like it wouldn't be difficult to have some automated system in place, I don't think.
I have seen Facebook kind of does this, where they ask you who your friends are. They ask you to identify a picture of your friends. I just think they should do that more often. I think everybody should get this check on their account once a year. To ensure that you actually know who you're following, to prove that you're a real person. You're not using Jane Doe's photo in Missouri when you're Vladimir something in Russia.
Yeah. Let's take another comment over here. Somebody said, since bill passed with GOP, we wishes granted. Do you think GOP will make a move to remove Trump now? I don't think the GOP is happy yet. I think they have a lot on their agenda that they still want passed. Whether it's going to be passed or not, I don't know.
The GOP doesn't want Trump getting impeached because it's a sign of weakness for the party. It's a sign that the party
screwed up.
It's a sign that, okay, we elected this guy our president, but he's not really that good of a candidate. GOP won't admit that.
Yeah, if Trump's impeached, there's no way that the Republicans are going to win the next election.
No, I see no way.
The midterms or the presidential election. But with Trump in office, probably no way they're going to win either, so maybe.
The midterms are huge. If the Democrats reclaim the House, which appears like that's going to happen, I think there's a good shot at impeaching Trump. Especially after Mueller hands down whatever charges he comes up with, if he comes up with anything. I see no way that he doesn't come up with at least obstruction of justice. There's another question here on Twitter from Julie Tardy. From Jamie, who says, do you think people have been mind-controlled on the internet? I do. I would say to some degree, a good amount of people have been mind controlled. I think it's subconsciously to some degree, and consciously to another degree.
Well, and if you are a person who actually thinks for themselves and actually researches what they read, you can't be mind controlled. But if you're a person who's just believing every single thing you see and read, then it's going to happen.
Well, I don't think you can. I think people are just too confident in what they see on the internet, especially people who aren't used to
older people, I think,
and people who don't use the internet a lot. I think once they start seeing these bogus news stories that are being pumped from Russia, they don't realize they're coming from Russia. They don't realize they're bogus. They see them and they take it as facts. And I think people are starting to realize this. I don't think it's going to be able to occur again. I think everybody knows that what you see on the internet, articles you read on the internet, are not true just because they're there. And that's something I think is very important. I do think that the campaign by Cambridge Analytica, I think the campaign by Russia, I think had significant influence over voters. If you want to call it mind control, you can. I don't know if you can technically call it mind control, but it was mind influencing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This was a military weapon used in Iraq. If this whistleblower that we spoke to is accurate, this was actually a military weapon that Cambridge Analytica took and turned it against American citizens.
Yep.
And that's scary. It's frightening that actually happened.
Yeah, and that can't be undone. People still have, like, even though we know that Russia and Cambridge Analytica sent out these fake stories about Hillary Clinton, there's still so many people who still in the back of their head when they think of Hillary Clinton think of these stories.
Yeah.
Like, oh, she's a pedophile. She had a, it's like she had a sex parlor or a sex ring in the basement of a pizza parlor. In their head, they unconsciously or consciously, it still brings up those like that anxiety about her,
and this whole like sexual deviant thing seems to be something from the far right. It seems like they're the ones that always create these rumors. And case in point, the sheriff, I forget his name, but the sheriff from Parkland, Florida, who has been on the news lately, he was actually a victim of such. And this stems back to his election for sheriff a few years ago, which somebody created a video. Somebody paid somebody on Fiverr. If you don't know what Fiverr is a site where you can pay somebody $5 or whatever amount. It's usually $5
to do a job,
to do a task. And this person offered you pay people to make a video making claims, and it basically had a script. They ended up paying this 17-year-old girl in the United States, whatever the amount was, to just read from a script basically saying that this sheriff raped her. Now, this video was used in the tail end of the election, and luckily it didn't affect it. But now that all this incident came up, the video boiled to the surface, and it has hundreds of thousands of views. And the woman came forward. The 17-year-old girl came forward and apologized anonymously. She didn't say what her name was. Apologized anonymously and said it was fake and that someone on Fiverr paid her. So they use this to defame this guy.
It's amazing that somebody can take $5 to do that. It's like that's how easy it is to create these fake stories.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to take $5 to claim an innocent person raped them. I mean, what can you do with $1,000?
I actually don't think it was a typical $5 a Fiverr charge. I think it was like $15.
Okay, but still, I mean, if you can do that with $5, what can you do with $1,000?
What was Cambridge Analytica doing when they're talking about bribing politicians and hiring prostitutes, Ukrainian prostitutes? What could they have been doing? What could they have on? Who knows what politicians in America? Do they have something on the GOP? Do they have something on these people like Matt Gaetz and who else? Devin Nunes, who are supporting Trump without question? Do they have something on these individuals? Maybe, maybe not. But it seems.
And that's a good point. Like maybe these guys. Everybody says, "Oh, maybe Trump's being blackmailed by Vladimir Putin." Maybe these congressmen who are overly eager to support Trump, no matter what he does, maybe they're being blackmailed by Trump or Putin. Like we don't know. Like, and I think that's why this Mueller investigation needs to go forward. We just need to see the truth. That's all we care about. Mueller's not going to create evidence. That's not. He can't make something look like it isn't. That's going to be up for a judge or jury to decide, or for Congress to decide. Another question here on Twitter from Bewildered Palm says, with so much controversy about what Facebook did with users' info, I'm not sure Twitter will have the easy sell to give more personal info just to get verified. That's an excellent point. But
at the same time, you can't have Twitter turning into a 4chan. And if you don't know what 4chan is, it's basically totally anonymous. You have people creating conspiracy theories and rumors about individuals trying to ruin people's lives.
Yeah, I mean, Brian had a few people say he raped somebody on 4chan.
It's disgusting. And they just use this. They make these posts, and then they do a screen capture of these posts, and then use it as evidence to back up their false claims.
Yeah.
And you can't have Twitter turning into that, especially that.
When people come to Twitter, they assume these people they're seeing are real individuals. I think for the most part, people think these are real people. But if you actually examine their profiles, you can see many of the people steal profile pictures. Many of them are using profile pictures that are just something taken off the internet real fast. And they're just anonymous people. You can hide behind your Twitter profile, just like you can hide behind a fake Facebook profile.
Yeah.
Facebook's a little more difficult to create fake profiles of, but it's still very easy. So I think there needs to be at least some sort of verification method, whether it's taking a picture of your username written on a piece of paper and holding it up by yourself. that's good verification.
Yeah.
At least you know that the person you're talking to is the person you're seeing on Twitter. It's like, I think just small stuff like that. And Twitter said they're going to have many different levels.
Yeah.
So I think you can verify yourself to a different level.
I mean, Twitter has, I don't know how many, probably hundreds of millions of users. It's hard to get the manpower to verify people unless they have some kind of automated process, which I'm guessing they're working on.
Well, I think what you do is you create a database and let it man itself in a way. Let people say, "Oh no, that's not him," or I think there's going to be a way,
like a crowdsourced.
I think there's going to be some sort of way to do it. We'll see. I think it's taking Twitter some time to come up with what they're going to do. They haven't actually announced exactly what they're going to do, but anything's going to be better than what the current situation is.
And people ask why we aren't verified on Twitter, and that's because Twitter has stopped verifying people at request.
Yeah,
they're only verifying certain individuals, like Emma Gonzalez. They verified because she was an important person that they needed to be verified. But now you can't request to be verified any longer.
I tried verifying with Twitter a few months back, and they said they denied me, and I don't know why. I don't know if they thought I was fake or
what. We have like 10 other accounts with our name on it who are posting false stuff.
Yeah, people are creating fake accounts of us, and it's to the point where people don't know which Ed Krassenstein is really Ed Krassenstein, and which is really one of the 20 other fake accounts. No. So and I can't get verified. So what do you do?
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's probably good. I think we'll end the show at that. We talked about quite a bit, so if you're gonna go back and rewatch it, go for it.
Yeah, and remember to subscribe. I think it's right under me. Subscribe to our channel. We're going to start doing these more often, and if you subscribe, you actually see when we go live on your Twitter account. On your YouTube account. We're also on Twitter. You can see our Twitter handles down here. Feel free to follow us. We tweet a lot, mostly about President Trump and political stuff. Feel free to message us. You can send messages to us on Twitter. I can't guarantee that we'll respond. We get a lot of messages, but we will read them. And my email address is also my Twitter account if you need to contact me or like to contact me for anything. It was a great show. We talked about a lot today. Just keep an eye on our channel. I think we're going to start building it up, and we might start posting some additional content as well as the Krassenstein live videos.
Yep. All right. Thanks, guys.